Mr. President,
The senator from Florida.
I ask consent that the quorum call be lifted.
The Senate is not in a quorum call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have some remarks to explain the two unanimous consent requests that I am making, and I understand to accommodate the senator from Wisconsin's schedule, I will go ahead and make the unanimous consent request prior to my remarks. I would ask, Mr. President, that I be recognized upon the disposition of the unanimous consent request.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs be discharged from further consideration of S-2880, a bill to establish a pilot program for long-term rental assistance for families affected by major disasters, and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I further ask that the bill be considered, read a third time, and passed, and the motions to reconsider be made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
The senator from Wisconsin.
Reserving the right to object, as chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction, I've reached out to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for their views, and the agency opposes this legislation. According to the agency, FEMA has spent more than $432 million on the Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program and provided rental assistance to more than 25,000 participant families to help them find permanent housing solutions. 97% of those enrolled in the program have successfully transitioned to more permanent housing. The remaining households in the Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program have either received rental or repair assistance from FEMA, have a habitable home with utilities on, or are not eligible for additional FEMA housing assistance. Federal, state, and voluntary organization partners will continue to provide assistance through disaster case management to those who still require long-term solution. So again, as chairman of the Committee of the Committee with Oversight and Jurisdiction over FEMA, I really do believe it's important to support FEMA's objection to this, and for those reasons I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President.
The senator from Florida.
Mr. President, I have another unanimous consent request, but let me just say that the unanimous consent request that the senator from Wisconsin has just objected to, indeed, FEMA does oppose this, and that's the whole purpose of the UC request. Because people are about to get shut out of the temporary housing that they have, having evacuated from Puerto Rico, evacuated to Florida, and that FEMA program runs out, according to FEMA, June the 30th. But in fact, the law is on the books that FEMA could activate that program just like they did after Hurricane Katrina for the poor people in New Orleans that had to evacuate from their homes. In that case, most of them evacuated to a different state, a lot of them having gone to Houston, Texas. And if the president hears emotion in this senator's voice, indeed, it's there. There are a lot of people that are hurting in the aftermath of two hurricanes having hit Puerto Rico, with the island still in great distress. Our fellow U.S. citizens on the island of Puerto Rico, and indeed in great distress, not only because of the slow assistance of FEMA, the lack of electricity, of which parts of Puerto Rico today, going on 10 months after the hurricane, are without electricity, of the number of people fleeing the island, and therefore the jobs are not available because the economy has been so crippled. And naturally, a number of those people have fled to where they can have safety and shelter and put their children in school. And by the way, there are a number of schools in Puerto Rico that are closed, where they have a decent opportunity to get a job, and not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans have fled the island to the States, and a good number of them are in my state of Florida. Now, there are in Florida 600 families that have been in temporary housing. It's called TSA. It's called Temporary Shelter Assistance. About 100 of those families have moved on to other states. Another 100 of those families have returned to the island. But 400 of those families are still in our state. And a good number of those 400 families are still in temporary shelter assistance. At least FEMA did not stop this assistance in March, and we got them to extend it to the end of May, and then pointed out that a lot of these families in that temporary assistance had children in school, and they needed to complete the academic year. And so the assistance was extended to 2 days from now, June the 30th. They have nowhere to go. Some of them have been able, by working 2 jobs, both husband and wife, to be able to collect enough savings that they can afford an apartment. The problem is the apartment rentals want a security deposit that is 3 or 4 times the monthly rent. And so many of these families do not have that much money saved as a result of them being able to find work. And so it seemed to me the humane thing to do is to activate the part of the law which this senator just asked for unanimous consent, and of which it has been objected to by the Republican side, that the very same law still on the books that was activated after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, that in fact that law be activated again for the purposes of transitional housing assistance. That bill has been filed by a number of us, and of which the only way to get action, since FEMA, and we just heard the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee say that FEMA said they're not going to extend it. They don't support it. Well, if it was good enough for the people fleeing New Orleans in Hurricane Katrina, why isn't it good enough for the people that are equally devastated now in Florida, having fled the deplorable conditions in their native island, our fellow U.S. citizens of Puerto Rico? There are thousands of displaced families who are still unable to return to their homes in the wake of those hurricanes. and it includes hundreds of those families, and we estimate it to be about 400 families still just in the state of Florida. And yet, despite that fact, FEMA is still saying that they are ending this transitional shelter assistance. This decision to stop providing assistance to these families has many of them very scared. They're scrambling to try to figure out what they're going to do to find an affordable place. We've reached out to churches. We've reached out to other charitable organizations to try to help them to afford the deposit, even where they have the income now from one or both spouses working 2 jobs to be able to afford the apartments. And so what we've been trying to do with this legislation, now rejected by our Republican friends, is we've been trying to urge the agency to do the right thing, use the existing law, activate it. You did it for New Orleans. Why not now for Puerto Rico? The situation that many of these families find themselves is a situation that no family should have to go through. I suspect that what we're going to see come Sunday, the news organizations in Florida will chronicle that some of them will be living in a car or going down to a homeless shelter. Some of them have lost everything because of these storms. Too many are still unable to find work or to find affordable housing, and especially the security deposit. For many of them, the only thing that they have is the help that FEMA is providing, but that's only good for 2 more days. And as we have tried, and the senator from Wisconsin, at the direction of the Republican leader, has said they're not going to let this legislation come up. These folks are not looking for a handout. They just need a little help getting back on their feet after the storms took everything from them. The fact that FEMA has put an arbitrary deadline on this aid rather than trying to work with the people, it defies logic. FEMA's TSA program is critical, and it has been critical to provide for them. And while I recognize that the TSA program was a temporary fix, you just can't end a temporary fix when people are being thrown out on the streets. And that was the attempt to force FEMA to act by this request to pass the legislation that would force them to act. And that's why this senator has asked the unanimous consent request.